I have been seeing a lot of talk on New Life Games about different Senet errors. This would be your coin in errors, coin in jams, meter disconnect errors, just basically any errors that deal with one of the Senet I/O cards, one of the Senet displays, your cabinet I/O card, but are fake. I figured I would take the opportunity, since this cabinet has a lot of Senet devices either blown or missing, that I would go through and just show my test procedure. The first thing you do is make sure the cabinet's off and go ahead and unplug all the devices that are left. This cabinet's pretty much gutted, so I don't have a lot here. Backlight driver, or real backlight driver, cabinet I/O card. The card mounted on the outside of the door is for the 14 button panel. The card mounted on the inside of the door runs your coin in and the cash out, service, spin reels, bet max, just the basic small button panel. Next, what you're going to do is take the cable that runs to the cabinet backplane and plug it in to the forward I/O card. This will get us our basic buttons working so that we can test. If this does not get your basic buttons working, then you either have an MPU issue or that card is your problem. For anybody that doesn't know, if you're booting an S2000 with the sound chip in, it takes almost twice as long to boot. Go ahead and rip that out. So you see I have a coin in jam error. So my front card may be bad, but I'm going to go ahead and put it into test. Here I do have the machine in test and my buttons are working, so that one I/O card is functional. I'm going to go ahead and back out. I still have the coin in jam, which is a little bit strange, but I do have a lot of stuff unplugged, so that, oh, I have the jumper unplugged. Go ahead and plug that in. I'm gonna go ahead and, with the jumper plugged in, I'm gonna go ahead and close the door. The optics are bypassed in this machine, so all I have to do is flip a switch. Meter disconnect. So next we're gonna work on the meter disconnect. I have the cabinet I/O card unplugged, so that makes sense. Turn the cabinet back off. Plug the meter, or the cabinet I/O card back in. The cabinet I/O card handles your candles, your hopper, the mechanical meters. It does not handle the reels. That was a feature that IGT did not populate. Those wires that people are seeing in the schematic for the reels, for the cabinet I/O card, that was never implemented. I'm going to go ahead and reboot the machine. See what we have now. Meter disconnect. I'm going to close the door. That error went away, so now it's looking for the 10 button I/O card. Turn off the machine again. Don't ever plug in or unplug a Senet device while the machine is running. You will blow the buffer chip on the MPU. Now we're going to, all the cards are chained, daisy chained one after another. we're going to take the cable that I just unplugged from the forward card, plug it into the back card. We're going to take the cable that runs from the forward card, or from the back card. We're going to plug that into the forward card. Turn on the machine. Take my little switch so that the door is open. Bill validator stacker open. So now I have no more errors. But, as some of you may have noticed, I am missing a display. So most likely that display was bad, and whoever had this machine before me took it out. So I'm going to go ahead and put a display in it. So I've got my Payline credit display mounted. I unplugged the wire from the forward card, because now I'm going to route that up to the display. And I'm going to take the wire from it, fish it behind the door cable. As you can tell, I'm not a professional YouTuber. And again, I'm doing this with the machine off. So now our route is, it's not critical what route this goes in as long as you're plugging in the big plugs into big holes and the small plugs into small holes. It's coming cabinet harness into the 14 button card. 14 button card is now ran up to the bet per line display. The bet per line display is going into your standard door I/O card that all S2000s have, and then that finishes at the credit display. I'm going to go ahead and turn the machine on. And I do not have the backlight driver hooked up yet, so that could still be bad, but it had a bunch of issues with the front door, so I'm thinking it was this display. Bill validator stacker. I'm just gonna open and close the door to get rid of that error. And now we have 0 errors, and all the displays seem to be functional. On the S2000s, you have 3 different types of door I/O card. You have the 801, the 802, and then there's also a black plastic card. I'm not sure the part number on that. The 801s, the address is locked by IGT. You'll see the 801, the LEDs are not populated, and the resistors for the LEDs are not populated. And then on the back side, you have 2 resistors, or 4 resistors on the top row here, and then 2 resistors on the bottom row here. Whereas on the 802, you have none of that. IGT locked the 801 cards to only work for the standard button panel. The 802 gets its address from the plug that it plugs into, so the 802 will work in either slot. The 801 will only work for the standard button panels. The black plastic cards, I've used them in whichever slot. I think they get their address like the 802 does. I don't run into those frequently though. I have ripped all of these resistors off of an 801 card if I was in a pinch, and it'll work just as fine. It will auto address just like it was an 802. The only difference is the debug LEDs will not light up because they are not there. Hope all this information helps somebody.